So where's the science? Well, this is it. It's in this book by Byron Hyde and J. Goldstein and Paul Levine, three of the big names of ME. 74 chapters. There was a copy on the side. 92 quid it costs, unless you know John Richardson, who gave me a copy, bless him. They describe a whole range of modern techniques which are helpful in looking at people with ME, including SPECT and PET and MRI and MRS scans. These are all based upon various techniques using, in the last two cases, magnetic resonance, in the other cases, photon emission tomography. Numerous clinical studies are also listed there. Multiple system effects are listed there. Effective treatments are listed there. So there's no this was in 1992. This was published. So there's no excuse for people not knowing. It's just that they're reading it. This is John Richardson's blessing book. This is John Richardson's Superhero. The main chapters in his book, well, not all of them, but this is many of them. Cardiovascular consequences of viral infection, central nervous system consequences of viral infection, glandular effects of viral infection, pregnancy and viral infections, cancers and viral infections, toxins mimicking ME, and treatment considerations. So it's all there. This book is a gold mine for clinicians because it's written by an experienced clinician. He worked for 50 years with people with ME and studied it, and it's a fantastic piece of work. Right, so let's move on quickly to some more. This is the brain, if you recognise it. Your brain might be like that, unless it's somatized. But this is the work from Haley, Professor Robert Haley, on Gulf War veterans, and he identified damage using these modern techniques to the basal ganglia, which is one of those areas affected most by Parkinson's disease and Huntington's chorea. There's a whole range of illnesses known to be associated with it. But we're talking about deep brain structures. These are structures that we don't know what's going on in there most of the time because it's going on without our being aware of it. This was the other area, was the brain stem, information centres, midbrain, visual and auditory reflexes, tick them off, facial expressions, eye movements, problems there. Heart rates, breathing, blood pressure, swallowing, vomiting, digestion. You recognise any of these? Yeah, so it's... And the summary of... I'm only kind of... Haley's work's worth a lot longer than that, but I can't do it any quicker. Damage suffered by Gulf War veterans is consistent with damage to deep brain structures. We'll come on to the limbic system, which is just outside these structures, but it's part of them. Exposure to nerve agents and chemicals are the most likely cause. The signs and symptoms associated with the early Parkinson's disease, and the symptoms are common with overlapping syndromes that appear to share a common biochemistry and involve severe dysfunction of the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, which is the stress axis, and other symptoms affecting the gut, the cardiovascular system, peripheral nervous system, and the autonomic nervous system. So Haley is actually identifying in the brain damage to certain cells by these techniques. I went to see John Richardson, who was dying at the time, and I spoke to him about what I was doing, and he was a very, very dear friend. And I said, what do you make of Haley? He said, he's absolutely right. And then I'd look in his book, and there it is, a 15-year-old boy with Parkinson-like symptoms following a viral illness involving violent abdominal pain, diarrhea and vomiting. What were we just talking about? Which parts of the brain? Brainstem? In basal ganglia. So that's in John's book. It's not the only thing, but here is a remarkable tie-up. Various toxins are produced by viruses, and they open up the blood-brain barrier, which we'll look at very briefly in a moment. Professor Basant Puri at Imperial has been using MRIs to look at people with ME, and he's found the choline-creatinine ratio in cells is significantly higher in ME patients with loss of the normal spatial distribution of choline over controls. The abnormality of phospholipid metabolism in the brain. John Richardson's already flagged this up, but he's producing the evidence, which is undeniable. It can't be argued about because it's been measured by and John Richardson also made his own mixture, John Richardson's mixture about choline and ascorbic acid, and that's in my book. And this is Wertmann in the States, who's doing something completely different and wasn't addressing these issues at all, but has developed an oral cytidine diphosphate choline complex, which is how choline is transported in the body, that increases phospholipid synthesis in the brain and raises levels of circulated choline and uridine. So, and they're marketing this to help support the brain in its problems under this kind of pressure. The limbic system sits outside. This is the top of the brainstem, and the basal ganglia inside here. They've been taken out so you can see what you're looking at. This is the limbic system, which is associated with MCS. And just here, you can see the olfactory bulbs. Now, the importance about this is that things that are inhaled travel along the nerve, not by the blood system, but along the nerve, deep into the brain, bypassing any protective blood barriers. And that's one of the really big problems we've not properly addressed. And this is multiple chemical sensitivity, Ashford and Miller. Major role of the limbic system, and look how it's affecting these different parts of it, the amygdala, the circulatory gyrus. You don't need to know what these are, but they're part of that system. Searching for food, procreation, libido, hippocampus, memory, learning. So have you found yourself in there? Yeah. Okay. This is work by Kenny DeMara, Patrick Engelbien and others. Sidolnik is one of them. A new key molecule is this RNase L, which is a key player in the immune system, which is there to combat infection by viruses and other intracellular organisms. And it switches on an interferon gene activation, which sets out to eventually destroy the nuclear material from viruses. But it also destroys nuclear material from the cell that's infected. So it's attacking the cell in order to clobber the virus, and willing to sacrifice the cell for that. It's tightly regulated and should be switched off when the infection's been conquered. If it isn't switched off, this damage goes on, and it affects mitochondria, muscle cells, nerve cells, the whole lot. ME patients have an aberrant form of this enzyme, which causes that activity to escape from the natural control mechanisms that the body's got in place. So you're out of control as well as being crackers. Right. But these mechanisms appear to be general, and they're provoked by all intracellular pathogens, viruses and bacteria. So ME can therefore be defined, at least for a lot of people, as a response to an illness followed by an aberrant immune response that persists and damages the host as much as the invading organism. So the immune system has gone a bit wonky. Organisms evoking this response include viruses. Polio could be added to that. I was asking about polio earlier. But do you see Borrelia there? Some of you might have come up with Borrelia and Lyme's disease, and that's all part of this story.